It's time, Kip. Are you ready?
It is. I'm red
All
eye.
right. Bye,
All right, we're going to
Kit. It
hand
was
it
good
off to
seeing you.
you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm counting like 140 going up to 150 people online right now. I really, really appreciate that you have taken some time to spend with me. I hope that when we're done, you'll decide that this was, in fact, time well spent. What we're going to do today is we're going to focus on uh, two very specific techniques that I have used with success in the past. These techniques have helped me find talented people to invite to my team, and then to train them to give them professional development, while at the same time actually freeing myself up to be better at my job. So these are things that I thought you would like to know and try, and I hope that they work for you as well as they've worked for me. And yeah, so thanks for being here. I'm doing my very best to monitor the Discord channel as we go, and in fact, I'm going to be inviting you to talk with me as I go through the material today. So if you're not in Discord yet, please go into the Zoom chat, and Ryan has actually provided you with a link that will allow you to get into the chat here. So please do that, because I'm going to be putting in a couple of URLs. You're going to want to get those because they will take you to the tools that I'm going to share with you today. So you're definitely going to want that. And then you're going to want to be in there as well, because I'm going to invite you to share some of the exercises that I have for you, and you'll be able to see hopefully other people's exercise responses. And I find that, yes, I'm here to share some things with you, but you're going to learn from other people as well by seeing what they contribute to the conversation. I think is going to really help you deepen your understanding. Let me just take a few moments in case you don't know who I am or where I'm coming from. But today, after 20 plus years, I continue to work as a Chief Information Security Officer, which is something I started doing in 2003. I got into what was then called computer and network security in 1992. So I've been doing this for a long time. In 2015, so about 7 years ago, I founded a company. It's called Cyber Risk Opportunities, and I've got a small team, and we operate as a virtual Chief Information Security Officer. So, not strangely enough, I have built a team in my company that greatly resembles the teams that I've built as CISO working for other people, and now we help companies all over the world. It turns out, not just not just in the area that I live in the Seattle area. But listen, the only way that I can do this work is if I build a team, and so I've been spending a ton of my time finding the best people that I could find to put on the different teams that I was trying to create, trying to develop them professionally so that they could grow and be more capable, and so that we could do our job better, serving our customers, and then encouraging them to stick around, right? And in the HR world, that's called retention. And my goal was for myself, in the midst of all that, was to be able to work on my program instead of in my program. And so that's what I hope that you're going to take that on as a goal for yourself. But now what I want to do is I want to invite you to be in Discord with me. And what I want you to do is answer this question. What do you think I mean when I suggest that as the team leader, you should be working on your program instead of working in your program? And I would love to see your thoughts about what I'm trying to say. Okay, I see developing the strategic goals. Yes, but that's not all. So keep going. The overall framework, not the technical details. Yes, you're absolutely in the ballpark. Expanding and honing in skills of the program versus being in the weeds on projects. Yes. Always improve. Yes, this is all true. And maybe you could tell me why why would I want to work on my program instead of work in my program? I mean, because I mean, if you are somebody who's supervising people today and you came up through the ranks, don't you feel tempted to get your hands back on the keyboard, right? Don't you want to get in there, roll up your sleeves and, and actually do some of the work that you've really loved doing? I can tell you that's a temptation that I feel all the time. Okay, so why would you want to do this? To be able to scale and grow? Yes. Oh, I love it. This is so, the amount of comments in here is coming in so fast now. I can't even repeat everything that you're saying. I really appreciate that. Okay, so here's all of the things you've said, but here's something particular that I want you to think about. If you can work on your program instead of in your program, that's going to let you do the tasks that only you can do as the team lead. And many of those tasks were mentioned in Discord, right? Like the strategic goals, the overall framework, thinking about how your team's going to scale and grow. Those are things that only you as the team lead can do. If you're too busy in the trenches, shoulder to shoulder with the people on your team actually doing the work of your program, then when do you have time to do that stuff? So you've got to delegate is really an important thing here. In order for you to focus on your core competencies, you have to delegate. I don't know if you've ever thought about delegating or how that sounds to you. I can tell you that when I first started thinking about delegating, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I was a control freak, and I was like afraid that if I asked somebody to do something, that it would train wreck, right? And so I had to learn over time how to be really good at delegating. So we're going to talk about delegation today. That's one of the big things we're going to talk about. And before we really start to dive into it, I want to point out this open source project that I am helping to lead. It's called the Cybersecurity Hiring Manager Handbook, and you can see the URL to it here. So this is an open source project. We started it about a year and a few months ago, and it's not finished. No open source project is really ever finished. We're constantly working on it. And there's been about 50 experienced hiring managers who have worked on the handbook. So if you're not aware of the handbook, it's online, it's available now. I want you to go check it out. I'm going to refer to the handbook today during the workshop. And so when you get a chance, I want you to go check it out. We've published it under the Creative Commons International 4.0 license. That was the most liberal license that we could find. And the idea here is we want people to really own this thing, to really embrace it and to use it and to contribute to it and not have to worry about any kind of restrictions. The only thing you need to do if you were to republish the handbook, for example, is just attribution. That's the only thing that you really have to do with this open source license. Okay, having said that, and thank you, Barking Seal, for putting it into the chat. Really appreciate it. So delegation. Let's start talking about delegation. Now, I want to teach you a technique today. Also, I want to give you a tool that will help you implement this technique. And I'm going to show you how I use it. And then I'm also going to give you an opportunity to try it today during the workshop so that you can get a chance to have a little bit of hands-on time. Now, I learned this tool from somebody else. And that somebody else was, her name was Susan Scott. And she wrote a book called Fierce Conversations. If anybody's read Fierce Conversations, go ahead and let me know in the live chat. It's a really helpful book. I adopted many ideas and practices out of that book, but my number one takeaway was really this way to delegate and and not have my inner control freak go crazy in the process. So what's great about delegation? Well, delegation, and particularly this technique that I'm going to teach you, is going to create a very efficient and very effective approach to the delegation activity that you've got to get good at. And what it's going to do is a few things. It's going to get this important recurring work off your plate. It's difficult to delegate one-time things, tasks that are unique, that are not going to happen very often. It's much easier to delegate tasks that happen with high frequency and that follow the same pattern, because you've got to be able to document it. You've got to be able to write some kind of an SOP for somebody to follow. Okay, so but if you can do that, then you can get this work off your plate, and you can do it in a way that's going to make you feel very comfortable about the fact that you yourself are not doing it anymore. And then most importantly, perhaps, is at the same time that you're getting work off of your plate, you're giving an opportunity for your team members to get some professional development for themselves. And this is so important to give people a chance to become smarter and more capable. And I would even go so far as to say that if you're not delegating, you're almost robbing your team members of the opportunity to grow professionally and to really enjoy their work. So, whether you want to do delegation or not, I guess I'm really suggesting you have to do this. It's not just about you. It's also about your team members. All right. So, and as I said, this is a way to gradually let go of a task until you know that it can be done as well as it needs to be done. I told you about the hiring handbook, and here, let me take a sip of water. Here's a reference to that right now. So in the handbook, when you go in there and check it out, what you're going to see is a bunch of ideals, and you're going to see a life cycle approach to acquiring talented people for your team, retaining them, and then inevitably saying goodbye. Everybody leaves a team sooner or later, and you want to do that with a lot of grace and human dignity. But there's a retention ideal. It's the fourth one. You can see it on the screen here, that you want to create learning and growth opportunities. Now, where did this ideal come from? Again, it came from these 50 very experienced hiring managers who said, to the greatest extent possible, you need to do this, and it's ideal if you do it. And I'll make some other references to the handbook as we go along. Now, the secret, the big trick to using this tool and technique that I'm about to share with you is that you have to try to see a delegated task as a type of a decision. And if you can do that, if you can kind of see it through the lens of a decision, then that's going to make this a lot better. And let me give you an example of a decision. So let's say you've got a policy about some aspect of your security program, and that policy is required. But you do have an exception approval process for that policy. Let's say it's your multi-factor authentication policy, and you require multi-factor authentication for remote access. But people inevitably show up and say, I'd like to request an exception. Now, instead of you handling that all the time as the team lead, maybe you're handling it now, and it's a lot of work, and it's dragging you down. This could be something that you could delegate, and you're not really delegating. Again, for this tool to work, you're not delegating the sort of like the handling of the request so much as you're delegating the decision about, should the exception request be approved or should it be denied? That's really the way to think about it. All right, so here's the model that I really enjoyed from the Fierce Conversations book. And Susan uses this tree as a way to describe a series of steps in the delegation process that you can use in order to slowly and in a very managed way give a very important decision to somebody and allow them the time to become more competent in it and more confident in it. And the way this works is you kind of start at the bottom, and at the bottom of a tree are roots. So if you're delegating to somebody and you start them at the root level, what you're saying to them is, okay, I want you to look at each of these exception requests that comes in, and I want you to come up with a decision about whether you think that request should be approved or rejected. And you've given them training, you've given them the criteria, so they should know, whether something should be approved or not. But you're saying to them at the root level is, I want you to recommend to me what you think the decision should be. I want you to explain why you think that's the recommendation, but I'm going to make the decision. All right. So this is where you start off in root. Now, once somebody shows that they can do this a few times, then you can move them up to trunk, right? Which is the next step up. At trunk, you're telling your delegate, okay, now I want you to be able to make the decision. But before you tell anybody, I want you to report your decision to me so that I can give it a sanity check. And then as long as it passes the sanity check, then you can go ahead and tell them what the answer is. So you let them do that for a while, and then you can move them up to the third level, which is a branch. At the branch level, what you say to your delegate is, you're doing great at this. What I want you to do now is I want you to make decisions. I want you to tell people what the decisions are. And all I need is a report of what you've done on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whatever you feel is the reporting frequency that you need to see. And so I hope you can see how gradually, right, you're just gradually shifting this work into somebody else's hands, and you've got the ability to actually monitor, right, up to the branch level, how well they're doing at it. And so you could actually stop this delegation at any time, or hit the pause button if you feel like the delegate isn't going in the right direction with this. Maybe even walk back a decision at the branch level. Now, the top level of the tree is the leaf level. At the leaf level, what you're telling your delegate is, make the decision, act on it. Don't even tell me. I don't even need to know what you're doing. You're so good at this, there's no reason to even share it with me. But if there is an exception that shows up, right, any kind of weirdness, at the leaf level, I would like you to escalate to me any major exceptions that you encounter in the work. And this is where you really want to be with everybody, right? Is you want to get to this leaf level of delegation. So anyway, yeah, a RACI matrix. Yeah, you could use a RACI matrix for this. Absolutely. That's not what I'm going to recommend, though. So how do you know when you can delegate something, whether you use this model or some other model? Well, I've got some criteria here that you can read. Some of it I've already said. Is there anything on here that I haven't said already? No, I think I've pretty much said all of this, so I'm not going to read the slide to you. But here's the tool, and I'm going to give you this tool today for yourself. I'm going to drop the link into Discord here in just a moment. But I want to take a moment, and I want to kind of explain what's going on here. So the top half of this tool is just boilerplate. You really don't change it too much. You're going to change out the name of your delegate, right? Peter Gibbons. You're going to get Peter's name out of there. You're not going to use Kip's name. You're going to put your name in there. But it's the bottom part of this, right? The list of tasks is where you're going to fill that part out. And the way it breaks down is you write the task there on the left in the first column, and then in the description column, you can make that be whatever you want. I kind of have a little bit of some bullets there that either summarize what the steps are in the process, or I might list the tools that they're going to need to do it. But I'll have a separate SOP written for them, which could be in an email or in a wiki, or however you do it. And then you see on the right there, you can see the progression, right? How somebody starts at root, and then they go to trunk, and then they go to branch, and they go to leaf. And I actually have dates in there. So when you make this, you really want to try to anticipate how long you think it's going to take for somebody to get through this progression. And what I tend to do is think about it in 2-week chunks, unless there's some reason why I shouldn't. I also like to have the dates correspond to our one-on-ones that we have with each other. That's a really great opportunity to check in and say, I think you're ready for branch. Do you think you're ready for branch? So you need to have a lot of conversation with people when you do this. Let's see, is there anything else I need to tell you about this before I give you the URL here? I think you should give the delegate a copy of this plan, however you do it, right? So that they'll know when the next opportunity to move up is. You'll notice that I've only got 3 tasks down here. Excuse me. When you're delegating, you want to be careful about how much you try to delegate at any one time, and that's a judgment call on your part. It's going to depend on how accomplished the person is already, and how much involvement they may or may not have had, with some of the things that you would like them to do. So, oh, you got to be kidding me! I'm trying to paste the URL into Discord, and Discord thinks for some reason that it's not text, that it's actually some kind of an image, which it is not. So let's see if I can make that happen again, because I want you to have this. It still thinks it's an image.
If you want to try, put it in the Zoom chat, I can grab it and copy it over.
I'm going to try one more thing because I'm just so dang stubborn. Okay, so I actually pasted it into a text editor and it worked. There you go. Why I should have to do that just drives me crazy. But there it is. So this is an actual template that I use when I teach the full 16-hour version of this course. And so, I'm using it here for you. Thanks, Ryan, for putting it into Zoom for me. I really appreciate that. Now, if you're going to do this, you've got to teach them. All right. And in this era of remote work and distributed work, this might seem difficult to figure out. But here's how I do it. So I followed this 4-step process here. All right. And the first step is I just want to show them how I do it. So I'm giving them the SOP, but I'm also making a video. I like to use Loom because it's very easy to use. And when I get done recording the video, there's a link already there that I can grab and just send it to them. And then the delegate can watch my video over and over and over again anytime they want. And I've found that delegates really like that, because sometimes they worry that, oh, I got to ask another question about this process. I know Kip talked with me about it. He's probably going to think I'm really annoying because I keep asking him. So a Loom video is great because it just lets them go sort of self-serve. And so that's where I start. And then after they watch the video, I talk with them. How was that? Did it make sense? Did I miss anything? Do you want more detail on something? And as soon as they're feeling comfortable with that, then it's like, okay, great. Why don't you practice that? And when you're ready, I want you to do it while I watch, and then we'll have a conversation. And in that case, it could be a Loom video back to me, or it could be screen sharing. I like screen sharing because as the person does the procedure, we can have a real-time conversation, or I can coach them about something, that would make the job easier, or maybe they're about to go in the wrong direction for whatever reason. And so I find that a Loom video back to me isn't always the best. Really, screen sharing is much better. I got a question here. Have you seen pushback from the Loom? I have seen my team not wanting to watch videos, would rather jump immediately to the, that's fine. Monster, if your folks don't want to watch Loom videos, then ask them what they would like and do it that way. I'm not trying to suggest that this approach that I'm sharing with you is the singular best way to do it. I find that it works well for me and my team, and it's a good starting point for you as you think about how you might want to do it. Application assessment on Loom via Loom video, chicken and egg. Yeah, it can be. And also watch out with Loom, right? Because if you're going to share a procedure that's confidential or restricted in nature, or is going to contain information that's confidential or restricted, be careful about that. I'm not recommending Loom for absolutely everything all the time. You do still have to protect your sensitive data, so factor that in. Maybe Loom isn't the right tool for you because of that. Maybe you need to get a different type of video recording system that will let you better control your information. All right, so that's the first two steps, and then after step number two, I find that they're ready to fly solo, and so they do that, and that's where the one-on-one meetings can happen. So if I'm not hearing from them, at the very least, during the one-on-one meetings, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to invite them to bring it up with me whenever they want. They can send me a message in Slack or whatever. But by step three, right? It's they're doing it. We're talking, whatever that looks like for us. And then by the time step four happens, they're just doing it. And I find this fourth step is really helpful. Let me talk about some common errors that you could make as a delegator. You might choose somebody that you think is ready, but they're not ready. And how can you know that? I think you'll figure it out pretty early on. But if you get that nagging feeling, right, as you're starting to share, with somebody what it is you want them to do, and you're going through that process of teaching them, but you're finding that you're getting, feedback that's less than encouraging, then maybe they're not ready, and you should maybe dial it back a little bit. So be thinking about that, right? How do I know if somebody's ready or not? You may be training them in a way that's confusing or incomplete, and they may not tell you, and they might not tell you because they don't understand the task yet. So just be on guard for mistakes that they might make because your training somehow wasn't everything that it should have been. That's easy to fix, especially if you're at the root level, right? Because they're not pulling the trigger yet. All right. So that's something you can detect. I've made this mistake. You may not allow enough time for the delegate to practice, right? You might start with like a 2-week window for them to move from like root to trunk. And you might be all excited, like, hey, let's get you to trunk, but they may not be ready. So be careful about that. That could backfire on you pretty badly if you're not careful. I showed you in the template how you might want to start somebody off not at root, but maybe they already have a certain amount of capability, and so you want to start them off at trunk, or maybe you want to start them off at branch, and that's fine. But don't get so excited about this that you move them to leaf too quickly. And then another common error is starting them at root. If they already know about this and you start them at root, that's a demotivator, right? Because nobody wants to be considered remedial, right, to where they really are. And then don't be over controlling. Once you reach leaf, back off. You've gone through this process. The point of going through the process was to have confidence that somebody could actually do this task that you've delegated to them. If you don't back off, you could get accused of being a micromanager. You could be accused of doing this before you even reach leaf. You might be accused of this right off the bat. I've had that happen to me. And why is that? Well, here's some reasons, right? Like they may have never experienced a controlled delegation like this before with OJT on job training. So to them, right off the bat, like, this may seem like you're micromanaging me because, Kip, you've just given me a detailed SOP. You've given me this Loom video. You want to talk about this all the time. And because I haven't reached branch yet, I can't make decisions yet. I have to run everything by you. Right. So make sure you think through this and make sure you tell the person that you're going to do this with. It's like, I'm not doing this because I want to stay involved in the task. I'm doing this because I want to set you up for success. If I'm overly setting you up for success, just let me know. But also realize that at some point you're going to get to leaf as soon as you can get there. And then I'm out. Like, I'm not going to be there standing next to you like that. Okay. So just be on guard. If you see it on their face, you're like, this guy's going to micromanage me to death. Make sure you bring this up. Right. And then try to show them as you go through the process, right, that you can go hands off and that you can back off and give them the space that they need to be successful. Okay. So now I want you to try this. So I've given you the link. Hopefully you've been able to open it up successfully. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about somebody who's on your team. And by the way, you should have to make a copy of this Google Doc. If I was a good sysadmin, I set it to read only, and you should only be able to make a copy for yourself. What I want you to do is I'm going to give you 10 minutes. And I'm going to watch the timer so you don't have to. And I want you to create at least 2 tasks that you would like to delegate to somebody on your team. And I want you to think about a real person, and I want you to think about real tasks, because ideally you're going to take this exercise and you're going to go back to work and you're going to use it. I would love for you to do that. And I want you to get a schedule of targeted dates to get them from root to leaf in a reasonable amount of time. Or you might start them at trunk, or you might start them at branch. I don't know. But I'm going to start the timer. You've got 10 minutes. If you have any questions or issues, just drop them in the Discord channel. I'm going to watch right now to see if any come up. And I guess we can do now what, mid-show banter, Ryan? Is that what you'd call it?
Mid-show banter. That sounds like a new thing.
Well, I need to give people a chance to really do this, right? And I don't want to try to teach them while they're doing the exercise. So
all right. We can do some mid-show banter.
Mid-show banter.
I'm here for that.
Have you seen any questions that I might have missed that you think that I need to pay
the only
attention
thing
to?
I saw of note was someone requesting slides, which I do need to get from you.
Yep, I will.
We can do that
drop
after.
Yeah,
or unless you have them handy.
I don't have them handy, but I will make them available, and we should probably tell people where they can find it, right? There's a slides-resources channel right next to the webcast live channel, and that's where I should put it, right?
Exactly. Look at you, the expert.
Well, I I just know I've struggled a lot with this, right? And I think I'm figuring it out. So you've been delegating to me, Ryan. Have I reached leaf yet?
Reached leaf?
Yeah, leaf. Leaf is the level of delegation where I can do the job and you don't need to help me anymore.
You're very close. You're very close.
You're out on a branch and Ryan's sawing the branch.
I do see another question here. Is this being recorded? The answer is yes, it is being recorded. We'll have it up on YouTube and on our Antisyphon YouTube channel. I'll drop a link here in a moment, but if you jump onto YouTube, it'll be ready right after this is over. And you can watch the whole thing again 9 times. I always say 9 times because
9
that's
times?
just like, 9 times. It is known.
Oh, I know why. I know why. Yes. Ferris Bueller, right? Ferris Bueller's absent 9 times.
9 times. That's right.
Okay, so watch it 9 times. Let's see. Mr. Bigglesworth, is there an archive for previous slide resources? I have no idea. Do you know, Ryan?
It would be the slides channel, but I think we clear it out every so often.
Oh, I didn't know you were into binge and purge. Okay.
We are.
For slides, just slides.
For slides, yeah.
Okay, it's coming up on 3 minutes. You got 7 more minutes. I hope that you are getting your template, your delegation tool template. I hope you've thought about somebody on your team that you would love to delegate to, and that you're creating at least 2 tasks with a schedule of how you're going to move them from root to trunk to branch to leaf in a reasonable amount of time. And then also think about whether you'd like to share what you've done with the folks who are on the webcast today. Again, it can help a lot to share what you've done with other people and get a peer review. Now, if you're on this webcast and or anticast, I suppose is what it's called now, and you're not a supervisor, but you would like to have your supervisor delegate to you, how powerful would it be for you to go back to the supervisor and say, hey, I went to this Anticast and there's this delegation tool that I learned about. What do you think? You want to give it a try? I would. If I was a supervisor and somebody came to me, I'd be like, yeah, tell me all about it. I'd love to get some work off my hands.
Question from the chat. How do you do this in reverse to your admin?
How do you do this in reverse? Is that what I just was suggesting? Like, like go to your boss?
Yeah.
Good timing. What do you know? I anticipated the question. Oh, man. That was good. I didn't even try to do that. Kind of magical. And then, Haircut Fish says, I am the only one on my team. I am the whole tree. That's not bad. Nice sunny breezy day to be the whole tree. Kind of pleasant. Yeah, but how do you teach them to direct you better? You might have to fire your boss and get another one. I don't know. That could be difficult. Ooh. All right, we're 5 minutes into the 10-minute exercise. I love, there was a comment in here about leave me alone. Yeah, leaf level means leave me alone. Love it. Thank you, Mr. Bigglesworth. It's got to be a cat noise whenever I upvote Mr. Bigglesworth. Monster wants to know about Antisyphon Training Calendar. Do you see that, Ryan?
Oh, we can post the link for that. We have a whole calendar webpage. Copying. I'll post that in the Discord right now.
Yeah, you did it. I see it.
And now to Zoom chat.
Yep, I see it there too. Ryan, have you explained to anybody lately what your alias means?
My alias?
RGP Photog.
Lately, I guess not. So RGP Photog, that's simply my initials. And then Photog is short for photography. And I didn't want to put photography because it's just too damn long. So I nicknamed it into Photog. That's what that means. And then my other alias, the Shootist, that was given to me by John Strand because I do photography, and somehow he references the movie called The Shootist. It's John Wayne's final film, and that was about shooting guns, but my name is more about shooting videos and photos. So.
And that's here you are, stuck
everybody
on
in the Wild West Hacking Fest has to have a Western theme nickname, so that became mine.
Okay, cool. Well, there you go, folks. Now you know. The training calendar for October to December, Ryan, specifically.
That's a deputy question.
Oh, too bad the deputy wasn't here.
I think she's lurking.
By the way, who's the sheriff? Or did they get shot? Is John the sheriff?
Who is the sheriff?
I don't know. I just realized it's like I haven't seen that before. I haven't seen the sheriff. I'm assuming it's John.
He doesn't go by the sheriff, though.
No. Barking Seal says, I'm unclear. I understand we create 2 tasks, but what are the numbers, fractions in the far right column? Okay, those are dates. Sorry, that's not math. There is no math in this anti-cast. Those are dates, right? So like January 1st, or that's what I was trying to do there. So sorry for the confusion. Like January 8th, January 22nd, February 4th, February 18th, right? You can write the dates any way you like. We're 8 minutes, so we got less than 2 minutes to go. Doc44 says John is the model. What does that mean? Am I out of the loop? Why is he the model?
I think he's referring to the model John Strand. There's 2 John Strands. Do you know the tale of 2 John Strands?
No.
There is another John Strand.
Is this good or bad? Should there be 2?
It depends. Because the other John Strand did get himself into some legal trouble, let's just say. Sort of recently. But there's like I wouldn't call it a rivalry, but the model John Strand was not a huge fan of John Strand, InfoSec John Strand, being so well known, because the model John Strand, he wants to be the one who's well known, and he kind of accomplished that, but for a not so good reason.
He became infamous instead of famous.
Yeah.
Okay, now when we say model, you mean like fashion model? Is that right? Like
he's a
going down the runway
model. Like I don't think fashion was his. Yeah, not like that. But just a model. He's probably done some fashion, but not. I don't think it's been the runway kind of
Okay.
modeling.
All right. So we're coming up on 10 minutes. Mid-show banter. I think we got to wrap that up. Underwear model. Well,
Yes, there
our
we go.
John Strand could be an underwear model, I suppose. I don't know. maybe they should have a like a modeling duel. That'd be interesting.
It would be interesting. I'll
Get them to
leave
do it
it
at Way
at
West. Get them to do it at Way West. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. So we're done with the exercise.
Oh,
So
okay.
how did
You're
mid-show
welcome.
banter? Appreciate it. Okay, so how did you do, everybody? I can see we've got like 200 people here, so there should be, dozens and dozens of people at least, right, who did the exercise, and maybe you want some feedback. If you want some feedback on your delegation plan, take out any names or details you don't want to share. You might want to set your generated URL that's read-only, and you can drop it in the Zoom chat, or you can put it into the Discord channel, and I'd be happy to put it on my screen and review it together. Or if you just want to ask a specific question, that'll be fine. So let me just take any questions that come up. So Barking Seal says, is there any reason why one stage should take longer than the next? No reason in particular. It's going to really depend on the task that you want to delegate, and it also depends on the delegate's performance, right? How well are they doing? I mean, you might assume that it's going to take them 2 weeks to get from branch to trunk, but maybe they're struggling, and so you want to give them some extra time. You might give them a 3rd week or a 4th week, or you might decide that, you know what, this just isn't the time to delegate this to you for whatever reason. I mean, maybe they're super distracted. Maybe something awful is going on at home. I don't know. Maybe it's just not a good fit for them at work. So I hope that helps. Let's see here. Check-ins between stages. I think check-ins between stages are great. I don't think it has to be micromanagement. It certainly can devolve to that, right? If somebody is, getting ready to get to leaf, and you're treating them like they're still at root, then I think an accusation of micromanagement could come at you, and it might be justified. But yeah, you should check in as often, right, as you feel that it's necessary based on the person's performance. You should invite them to talk with you about what they're doing at any time. Have a nice, open, free-flowing conversation about this. Make sure the person feels that they're very well supported by you. Any value in listing out tasks per stage, or does it get too convoluted at that point? Tasks per stage. Well, what I would do is I would put that in the SOP. The idea of this template that I've shared with you is just summary information, right? Not the SOP itself. So you're going to put that in a separate document. All of the little details that that need to be paid attention to by your delegate. Any other questions? Thank ye. Ye welcome. Love the old English. That's great. Okay, Ed Delgato is taking a coffee break, and I actually think that's a wonderful idea. Why don't we take a break? Because we've got 2 hours, and we're getting ready to go into the second item that I want to talk with you about and share a very specific technique and a tool with you, and that's about making HR a great partner for you, no matter what your situation is. So, so let's take a break, 15 minutes. I'll invite you to come back at the top of the hour. During these 15 minutes, I will continue to answer questions that come into Discord or into Zoom. If you'd like me to review something that, that you've, some delegated tasks, if you don't want me to share them on the screen, I won't. If you want me to just look at them and give you some feedback without sharing them on the screen, I'd be happy to do that. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and start a 15-minute timer and go do your bio breaks and maybe finish working on your template so that you can actually have a plan that you can return to work with and start using right away. And in the meantime, let me know what questions you have. here in the chat. Oh, and I've got some friend requests here in Discord. I'll go ahead and handle those while I wait for you guys to ask questions. All right, I got a new friend. Any other new friends here? Barking Seal asks, should this be rolled into other events like the weekly one-on-one? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You should have conversations about how's it going with your delegated tasks in your one-on-ones for sure. And then sometimes you may just want to randomly reach out to somebody and say, hey, how's that going for you, this task that you're working on? Do you think it's reasonable that you're going to be able to reach branch by next week? That's what we had in the plan, but how's that feeling for you? Do you want more time, or or maybe you're ready to accelerate, right? Maybe you're ready for branch now, and we're just wasting time waiting for the official date to show up. So somebody reacted with the fire icon. All I could think of in my head was Beavis and Butthead. You guys know that's coming back, right? If you've never seen it before, it's coming back.
Fire, fire.
Exactly.
That was my terrible impression.
It was good. It was actually pretty good. That was actually pretty good for somebody. Now, you've either not watched that for a long time or you just watched it last night. I can't tell.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, literally watched the movie last night. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and there's a new Beavis and Butthead movie. Not only is the movie new, but that is actually a segue to the new series that's coming out that Mike Judge has been working on. So I actually thought Beavis and Butthead Do America, I thought that was hilarious, very funny. I'm glad to hear that the new one is really funny too. TP for my bunghole.
Those are words I did not expect on today's Whatcast.
I can't help it, man. That's classic. That's a classic meme. Cornholio. Gen X for the win. Yep, Cornholio. I laughed so hard when Cornholio showed up for the first time. I didn't know about that alter ego until I watched the movie. And man, I doubled over. People thought I was like convulsing in the movie theater, I'm sure. How's it going with your delegation plans? Anybody working on a delegation plan? I hope you are. Do you have any questions about it? Any question at all, and I'll be happy to take it. Yeah, I'm Generation X. Can you delegate the delegation plan? If you do, I want you to send me a Loom video and teach me how to do that. All right, that's your challenge. I need PPTP for my portal. Oh my God, that's great. Oh, that's awesome. All right, we do not have a security team on staff developing a potential pathway for infrastructure services. I've looked at DOD 8140. Should that be used in developing our certification criteria for our talent pool? Clarify, we are not DOD, we are retail. Garbo, that's a wonderful question. I think it's reasonable to use the 8140 as a template, but be careful because in DoD, you have to possess certain requirements in order to get certain jobs, and there's very rarely exceptions possible. So I wouldn't rigidly adopt that approach, and I'm not intimate with 8140, so I'm not sure if there are other potential problems that you could get into. If anybody else on the Anticast has an opinion about that, I'd love for you to respond to Garbo about using 8140 as a template for certifications for a retailer in the private sector. Radis is saying, don't do it, Garbo. It's a trap. But he didn't say why. I don't know if it's a he. Radis didn't say why. They did not say why. Oh, there's lots of opinions about this. Good. So Garbo, looks like you're getting some love over here in Discord. I'm so happy for you. This is great. I hope it's the kind of thing you were looking for. See, this is one of the things about doing, virtual events, right? When do you get a chance to chat to people, I'm glad we had a chance to do that today. Thanks, Andrea. I caught like a clip of that show the other day, and John Travolta looked like a baby. He looked like a little kid. Okay, everybody, 2 minutes, and we're gonna move on to the next topic today on our Anticast. Making a great partner out of human resources. So, all right, so let's just recap for a moment, right? So in the first hour of the Anticast, we talked about delegation. We talked about why it's so important for you to get high frequency recurring work out of your hands and into the hands of the people on your team, and why that's good for you, because it frees you up to work on your program and not in your program. And what I talk when I really explore this in depth in the course that I teach on the handbook. What are some of the things that you can be doing when you get to work on your program and not in your program? There's some really fantastic opportunities for you to really move the needle and position yourself as an influencer in your organization. And by influencer, I define that as people come in and seek out your opinion when they're about to make a major change to the org. So rather than finding out way after the fact that something big has changed and you never had a chance to look at it, people are coming to you in advance. And I want that for you. And so I don't have time to teach that to you today, all of those details, but that's a big part of why you want to delegate. The other big part of delegation is you want to create opportunities, professional development opportunities for your team members. So and that's going to create the kind of environment that is going to probably encourage your team members to stick around and not think about going and getting a different job. So, okay, let's go ahead and start getting into this. How do you make a great partner out of HR? Well, first, I want you to get very clear on what is going on. What are the opportunities for you to improve the working relationship that you have with your HR department? So we're going to try a scenario. So the scenario is you need to hire a new team member for your security operations center, or maybe you've got a different open position that you're trying to fill. It doesn't matter to me. Either role play the SOC position, or really think about an open one that you have, or maybe one that you are expecting to have later on. Just whatever's meaningful to you. Now I want you to make a list. What are your largest blockers related to your HR department? So imagine that you're going to open up this position, and you've got to interact with your human resources department in order to make this happen, right? To open the position, screen for candidates, bring people close to you for interviews, extend an offer, and then actually onboard somebody. Think about that whole process, and I'm going to give you 3 minutes. The timer's running. I want you to make a list, and you can make it on a scrap of paper or anywhere. I don't care where you make the list. I don't need to see the list, but I want you to make a list. What are the largest blockers? And this could be a list of like 3 things. It could be 10 things. I don't know how much struggle you're having with your HR department, but I want you to get this stuff written down. That's the first step to dealing with improvements, right? To be able to get to improvements, you got to know what your issues are. HR doesn't even understand what a SOC analyst is. That's a massive blocker. Yes, absolutely, Ed. And that happens all the time. That is definitely the number 1 item on your list. Oh, Papa Golf. Nice. Look at you. I'm guessing you're feeling the pain currently to be able to pop a list like that off so quickly. Or did you already have that list and you just brought it with you today? HR is a blocker. They can't grok the actual needs regarding the position. Well, Barking Seal, if you're actually using the word grok with them, maybe that's causing some problems. They don't grok you because you're grokking to them. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Ed, you're transitioning out of your role for some of those reasons. Wow. So it's so frustrating working with HR that you just don't want to do it anymore, and you want to walk away from the imperative to do it. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's awful. A grok lobster. Oh, Ryan, well done. Gunnar says they don't want to hire the most qualified candidate. You're in 2 minutes. You got 1 minute left. Let's get that list going. I've lost 5 candidates because of their slowness. Yep. Barking seal, sadly, in my experience, HR equals impediment more often than not. Nepotism. We're all remote. Oh, this is good. You guys are making a great list. Thank you. Obviously, there's a lot of pain out there. They can't see relevant experience because it's not blatant same job gained. They're being too literal. Low budget. Yep. All right, 15 seconds. Filtering CVs, got to get them stopped doing that. Summary, HR is broken. That is a totally reasonable place for us to be. Okay, so from what I saw in Discord, I'm seeing a lot of really great stuff. And I want you to just reflect on this question. What did you think about putting on your list, but you didn't put on your list because that problem is so awful you don't even want to think about it. Like you don't even want it on a list because it's just so awful. So if there's anything like that, this is your opportunity to purge, right? Just get it all out there right now. I know this is tough. I've had to deal with this myself for years, and what I'm about to share with you is not the fix it all, but it could help. It could make a big difference. I've used this technique with success. Okay, now what I want you to do is I'm going to give you 3 more minutes, and I want you to make a list of what have you tried to do to remove these blockers. I want you to add that to your list. You don't need to do a 1-for-1. You can just draw a line down the center of your list or start it, hit return key a few times. I want you to think about what you've tried to do to remove your blockers. The timer is running. You have about 2.5 minutes. Gunnar says, I do the initial phone screening myself. Papa Golf, crying does count. Yes, weeping is an action. I don't think it's very effective, but if it makes you feel better and you can take another run at it, sure, why not? Ed Delgado says, communicate. That's vague. Come on, a little more specific. What kind of communication? What have you said? How did you say it? What have you tried to remove your blockers with HR? That's what I want to know. 2 minutes to go. Consult with HR directly regarding my concerns. Good. But Ed, it sounds like that didn't go well based on the previous comments that you've made. I'm sorry. Radis says, posting jobs in the Antisyphon Discord channel is the best talent pool. Good for you. I'm glad that we have that for you. You've tried blocking HR's access to the network as a way of solving your problems. Okay, well, I see you didn't do it for reals, but I can understand why you'd be tempted to do it. Okay, coming up on 2 minutes, you got about 1 minute left to add to your list. I want you to write down what have you tried to do to remove your blockers. Papa Golf, thank you so much. Great contribution. Take HR's senior recruiter out for drinks and be his wingman in the bar. Radis, did you do that or did you just daydream that you did that? No, I've done that. Oh, cool. Did it work? Like, was that effective at all? Did it help? I want to know because I'm going to add that to the list of official approved sanctioned recommendations. It did help. Oh, that's fantastic. Totally did that. It's how I also got hired at the current company. Ass kissing should be required. Oh, should not be required. Indication of cultural issues. Oh, there's a whole other thing I could talk with you about, barking seal, that I don't have the time to get into it. But if you're able to come to my full training, we talk about that. Okay, so just think about how you did with that last exercise. Think about what you tried, whether it worked or not. And have you given up, right? Have you lost all hope? Abandon hope, all ye who enter. And I really appreciate the conversation that we're having in Discord about this. All right, now here's the next question. I got 3 minutes. What does a supportive HR department look like to you? If I said to you, tell me what it would be like if HR supported you the way you would want to be supported, what would you see? What would you hear? What would people in HR do for you, with you? Hopefully not to you. But I just want to know, what does supportive HR look like to you? direct and regular consultation with the teams and hiring managers, and ultimately the final say on the job description. Barking Seal, does that mean you get final say or they get final say? I think you mean you get final say. Gunnar says, get things right, make the right offer. Ed's still saying, I want better communication. Yeah, okay. All right, Barking Seal, got it. You want final say on the job description. Okay, Jen wants postmortems for hiring journeys. That's what would look like a supportive HR department to you. Love it. They should respond similar to the technical. Oh, I don't think I understand. You want to understand why candidates turn down or reject offers. Oh, Radis, look at you go. Love it. Okay, cool. So we got one more minute. If you haven't shared in Discord or in the Zoom chat, what does a supportive HR department look like to you? I want to hear from you. I want to know. I want the other people in our workshop today to hear what supportive HR looks like to you, because when I first started hiring people, it was all very vague to me, and I just sort of followed their instructions. The only this is the thing about hiring, and this is something that we talk about in my 16-hour course, and you can read about it in the hiring handbook. Most of us were never really taught how to hire well, how to actually find talented people. All we were really taught was how to avoid getting our employer into a lawsuit. And okay, I get it. That's necessary training, but it's insufficient. So I was pretty vague about what a supportive HR department looks like. So if there's anybody in our workshop today who also is feeling vague about that, like what exactly do I want? I hope these comments that are pouring into the Discord channel right now will help you get that clarity from other people who are struggling with this right now. And if there's a comment in there that really resonates with you, you might want to try a friend request with that person to continue to talk about it. All right. Let me tell you what some of the top things that the way that I define a supportive HR department, that they understand my needs and that they have a servant attitude. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That's kind of like my best case scenario, right? Best case in a practical world is that they would take the time to understand me and that they would be asking me, how can we support you? Like that would be amazing. An alternative, I got a couple of other alternatives as you can see here. I actually think it's okay if they understand me and support me, but they don't provide very much support, and that they mostly just get out of the way, right? Just allow me to do most of the heavy lifting, to do the screening, to do the interviewing without them getting involved too much. If that's possible, that's an acceptable alternative. Another way to do it is like they don't even need to know me very well, as long as they can just sort of like handle some minor things for me and just kind of stay out of my way, and they can forget I even exist, and that can be okay. So those are three ways that I look at it. Okay, in order for you to understand what's going on, I need to tell you that there are two types of HR departments, generally speaking. There's a strategic department mode, and then there's a transactional department mode, all right? Now, most of you and I have worked with the transactional mode of operating for an HR department. But I want to take a moment and I want to tell you what does it mean to work with a HR department that is more strategic in its mode? Well, this is a department that not only says the people are the company's greatest asset, but they actually walk that talk. And the way that you'll see this, the strongest, best possible way of seeing this is that they're not overly focused on hard skills when they are searching for candidates. What they're really trying to do is hire people who already possess certain soft skills that really cannot be trained. And I'm talking about curiosity, humility, resilience. There's a whole list. If you go into the hiring manager's handbook and you look up selection ideal number 3, you're gonna see more information about this, about what are these soft skills that can't be trained, and why is that a strategic approach to hiring, and why would you want to do that? The other type of HR mode is this transactional mode, which is essentially, let's get butts in seats as fast as possible for the least amount of money. And how many shortcuts can we take to do that? And how much work can we push off to candidates through the applicant tracking system so that we don't have to work so hard? They when they do screening, they really focus hard. They focus mostly on hard skills, and they focus mostly on where have you gone to school, and where have you worked at previously as shortcuts, right? As easy buttons to try to figure out whether this person is actually valuable to work with us. So these are two types of HR departments that you might encounter. I'm sure just based on this description that I've given you now, you already know what kind of HR department you're dealing with. And and when you're trying to be strategic and you're working with an HR department that's very transactional, that is probably where the biggest problems arise. That's where you get the most clash and the most difficulty. And believe me, I can understand why that happens. The tool that I'm about to teach you is going to help, but there could be some systemic issues that nobody is going to be able to remove completely. All right. Now, I also want to ask you about your take on hiring, because it's not all about HR, it's also about you. And so here's the question. Do you treat hiring as one of the most important duties that you perform for your organization? This came out when we were writing the handbook, and it's actually in Foundation Ideal number 2. And the idea here is, if you treat hiring as like, oh, I can't believe I got to hire again. God, where's that job description from last time? Can we just recycle that one? Yeah. Hey, HR, just let me know when you got some candidates, okay? I'll be over here doing my real job. That kind of an approach is not a setup for success. And you might be saying to me, that's the best I can do. Like, I don't have time to do any better than that. Well, okay, go back to the first part of this workshop where I told you that the way to get more time to work on your program and not in your program is to delegate more. All right, that's the answer to you not putting enough time, a sufficient amount of time to really show that hiring is one of the most important things that you do. Hiring is, I think, by definition, working on your program versus working in your program. So I hope you can see how these things are related to each other. And if you're not getting the people that you want on your team, that's going to keep you from building the kind of strong team that you really want. And when you have a strong team, that will continue to free you up to do more work on your program and become the kind of influencer in your organization that I want you to be. So hopefully you see why I chose these two topics for the workshop today. All right, so I'm going to give you an HR security toolkit, and I'm going to drop the URL to this into our respective chats here in just a moment. But I want to talk with you about how this works. And for some of you, maybe you've already tried this, and your reaction is going to be, been there, done that. This is not helpful because I've tried this and I didn't get anywhere. This is not a magic potion. It is not the same as a bag of pixie dust that if you sprinkle it on a reluctant HR person, all of a sudden they're just going to start paying attention to you. I cannot guarantee that. But if you haven't tried this before, then I think you should give it a shot. So I want you to, this is a 10-step process here, right? And you can modify this to suit your needs. So I want you to look back at your notes as the first step. And I want you to look at, I want you to identify, based on everything that you did, the number one way that your working relationship with HR needs to be better. Think about what it means to work with a supportive HR department. Think about the blockers, think about the things that you've tried in the past. And I want you to strategize, and I want you to find something that you would like to see changed. And I want you to focus on that. Then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to set up a time to talk with your internal recruiter, whoever it is that you're working with over in the HR department. Now, when I've done this, especially in the beginning, when I'm working with a new HR department, I'll just send a message and say, I need your help as the subject. And then then I write an agenda. And in the beginning, I like to keep this very tactical because I don't know this person yet. If I know the person and I've known them for a long time, then you don't need to be so formal about this, right? But I'm assuming that maybe you don't know them very well. So you could just set an agenda like, hey, I just want to review the hiring criteria for this open position, right? Then I want you to get this toolkit out, and there's a couple of pages. And I'm going to show you them in here in just a second. Page 3 of the handout has the common cybersecurity org chart, and page 4 has a service catalog. And if you think this is useful, I want you to use this as a way to educate your recruiter about this position that you're trying to hire for and where it fits kind of in the big scheme of things. Now, you may not be working for a big organization that has an enormous, department like this. That's okay. This conceptual team structure still applies. It's just that instead of having a lot of people wearing one hat, you've got fewer people wearing more hats, and you might be an army of one, and you might be wearing all these hats. I get it, and I know that everybody on here has got a slightly different situation that they're in. But take this team structure to your internal recruiter and focus on the area that you're trying to recruit in. Now, page 4 of the toolkit that I'm going to give you has this security service catalog. So the previous one was kind of more focused on kind of an org chart, kind of a functional approach. This is really focused on the specific services that you're offering, and these two go together, right? So the IDs, the numbers in the first columns on these two tables actually correspond to the bubbles here in the chart. All right. So that's how they work together. So the next thing I want you to do is I want you to talk to the recruiter, not just about the open position you have, but the areas in which you tend to hire in the most. Like, where's the greatest amount of turnover? Maybe it's the security operations center, right? There can be a lot of turnover there. And then go right to the criteria for the job you're trying to fill now. Explain why that criteria needs to be adjusted, because I've noticed a lot of you have talked about, like, well, HR wants too many years of experience, or they want a certain degree, but I don't need anybody with a degree, right? This is where you want to talk with them about how you either need to be more restrictive, or most likely you need to be less restrictive in your hiring. And you may need to request an exception to your hiring policies. And so this would be the time to do that. And if you don't have a dedicated recruiter that you can go to, maybe you're not that big, or maybe you're so big that nobody's dedicated to you, this would be a great time to reach out to the supervisor of the internal recruiting team and talk with them about having somebody assigned to you who, when you do have an open position, you can work with them. Now, this is an approach that I've used with success. It didn't always work, but in the process, I learned a lot about what goes on in the HR world and why it's so difficult for them to support me sometimes. And I'll give you just like one quick story. All right. So when I was CISO at a insurance company, and I started having this conversation with the HR department, one of the things that I realized, and I was super clueless, and so this was a big epiphany for me, is that the HR department was really a well-oiled machine to hire customer service department representatives and claims adjusters. Like, that was 80% of all the recruiting they did was for those positions. And so I realized that they were like looking at my jobs through those filters, and they were using their, what worked for them in those positions. They tried to use those techniques to recruit for my positions. And you know what? Some of it translated, most of it didn't. But it really let me understand, what it was that was going on, so that I could realize what they were wrestling with. And that insight then allowed me to make very specific suggestions. Now, ultimately, where we came to is I agreed to assume the burden, like the lion's share of the work of recruiting, and we agreed that they would provide very specific support in very certain ways. For example, I couldn't post a job myself because I didn't have access to that system, and I didn't want access to that system. So they agreed that if I wrote the job description and they approved it, that they would post it for me. They allowed me to choose where they would post the job description. And so anyway, we ended up coming to an understanding, and that's really where I think you need to get to. Now, you should try this. If it works, wonderful. I'm super happy for you. If it doesn't work, then I need you to do a retrospective. You can do this by yourself. You can do it with your significant other. Maybe do it with your boss might be helpful, because this is the time where you're probably going to need to start escalating the fact that that you're at an impasse and that you need some help. Maybe you could have made your case better. Maybe there were some things about the way they work you didn't understand, like the story I shared with you. Did you make it clear what's in it for them, right? If you say to them, I would feel more supportive if you did this. Well, what do they get out of it, right? And you might say, well, it's ridiculous that I should see it as a transaction like that. But the truth of the matter is this is just human beings, right? People need to know that there's something in it for them if they're going to really, really commit to something. I can give you a very casual yes any day of the week. Will I keep that commitment, though? Really depends on how much is in it for me. So that's what you're going to do if it doesn't work. Okay, so I'm going to give you the whatever this thing is. It's a URL. Let me give you the URL. I want you to go retrieve this toolkit, because I'm going to ask you to do something with it, of course. And I've got to do the fancy schmancy, paste it into a text editor first. There we go. And now it's going to go into Discord. There you go. Oh, thank you, C. Shura, for putting a little pronunciation key next to your handle and for putting in the link. I really appreciate that. Thank you. You can type 65 words per minute. That's pretty good. I used to type really, really fast. I can't do it anymore. I don't know. My fingers aren't cooperating like they used to. So go ahead and open that up. It's a PDF. And if I did the permissions correctly, all you should be able to do is read it or make yourself a copy. And I want you to make yourself a copy. And then here's where I want you to be able to leave our workshop today with some ideas that you can make happen. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. I want you to make a list. What's your number one opportunity to improve your partnership with HR so that they can bring you truly good candidates? I want you to make that list. I'm giving you 3 minutes to do it, and you can feel free to share with us in Discord and in Zoom. Michael Miller in Zoom has put a really good comment in there. Yeah, so I'm going to read this. I've had success sitting down with my recruiter after posting the position and going through a half dozen or so resumes and showing them the things that stand out to me in those so they can better understand what I'm looking for. That's great, Michael. And the other reason why I like that is because I appreciate that you're taking kind of like an educational approach to it, right? Is you want to teach them. And I think that's a great place to begin this conversation, is by sharing information and teaching them. I love it. And then I got another Zoom comment that says, I don't see the slides. I haven't put them in there yet, but I will. I will put them in there as soon as we're done. After we're done with the Anticast today, not only will I put the slides in there, but I'm going to go back through the live chat in Discord. And if you've asked any questions that I haven't seen or answered during the Anticast, I'll go ahead and answer them in Discord. So I'll actually spend some time doing that for you. Okay, we're at 1 minute and 30 seconds, so you got about half the time remaining. I want to know, what's your number one opportunity to improve your partnership with HR? And your number one opportunity might be to just minimize contact with them. You might have been fighting this fight for so long that you're just done, and I can understand that. And you know what? And if that's going to improve things for you, then I hope that's what you get. Stealth hiring. Stealth hiring. So that would be like shadow HR, right? Where you go out to Fiverr and hire people to do stuff for you on an as needed basis. Why not? It reminds me of a story that I read in the newspaper where a guy had outsourced. He was a full-time employee. He'd outsourced his job and somebody, overseas. And he spent, I don't know, like an hour a day supervising their work and turning it in as his own. Eventually got caught. Let's see. Number one opportunity, don't treat HR like an adversary, says Radis. Good. Help them with their issues and concerns, and they'll be more inclined to cooperate, says Ninja Pixie. Papa Golf says, playing fast and loose with HR policies. That's your number one opportunity to improve your partnership with HR. Okay. We need to stay in touch. You need to tell me how well that's happening. Okay, it's been 3 minutes. So hopefully you've identified your number one opportunity to improve your relationship with HR. And now, is there a real number one opportunity that you didn't put down because you thought it was too ambitious? Okay, maybe it is too ambitious, but I think you should put it down and maybe you baby step your way to it. All right, but don't shortchange yourself. Okay, as you do this. And then here's another question for you. 3 minutes. How could HR help you, or how could you help HR do better screening? And I love that Michael Miller completely anticipated this question with the comment that he made in Zoom. And I love his suggestion, which again, I'll just repeat it for you, that he actually posted the job, waited until some resumes showed up, and then he sat down with the internal recruiter and went through half a dozen resumes and actually showed the recruiter the things that stood out, which I imagine would be like good things versus as well as bad things, and so some training. So that's one way to do it. Can you think of any other ways? I would love to see your comments in Discord or in Zoom. Just one or two ideas for how you could help them do better screening. Wall of shame. Oh, struck out wall of shame, says Ninja Pixie. Ninja Pixie, are you saying that you tried to partner with them, but you weren't able to? Love for you to clarify that. Go to the meetups and find candidates yourself. I don't have a problem with that. In fact, if you come to my class or if you read the handbook, we talk about that. We talk about the fact that you need your own talent pool, and the local meetups are a wonderful potential talent pool for you. Oh, Ninja Pixie says, we vetoed an HR wall of shame for employees or candidates that messed up. Thank you. Now I get it. I wouldn't have even thought that would even be considered. I guess I could understand. But one of the ideals that we have in the handbook is that you should hire in a way that creates relationships with candidates rather than treating them as numbers or objects. Okay, you got about 30 seconds left. Barking Seal says hiring postmortems. Yes. Okay, so here's the next thing as we wind down that 3-minute exercise there. Here's my next exercise for you. I want you to look at the service catalog on page 4 of the toolkit. Hopefully you've retrieved that by now, and you've got it. And I want you to think about that job, right? Remember, we opened up with this idea that you either have a real job that you're trying to hire right now, or I said you could pretend that it's a security operations center analyst, however you want to do this. So think about that job. I want you to look at page 4 of the toolkit, and I want you to identify what are the neighboring services that could be helpful if you went to HR and you were coaching them and you said, well, look, I'm trying to find a strong candidate in this area, but if you can find me a strong candidate in these adjacent areas, they might be a great fit for the area that I'm trying to hire for, right? So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to broaden the HR perspective and keep them from being too literal about the job you want, because maybe there's some jobs, some people with experience in neighboring areas, and maybe they could be very successful in the area that you're hiring for. So 3 minutes. I want you to write down 1 or 2 ideas. And by the way, Barking Seal, I got another idea. Since you liked hiring post-mortems, how about this? How about a hiring pre-mortem? Have you ever heard of a pre-mortem, right? What's a post-mortem? A post-mortem means after the thing has died or after we've done something. A pre-mortem, right? Let's talk about it before we do it. And let's think about all the ways it could go wrong. And let's think about all the ways that, the things that we could do to help it go right. When I was learning how to fly airplanes, we didn't call it pre-mortem and post-mortem, but we would talk about what we were going to do in the air. We did it, and then when we got back, we talked about what we did. Popcorn, man, you're making me hungry. Pre-mortem, how we can kill the patient. You're 1 minute into your 3-minute time slot here. Look at page 4 of the toolkit. Identify neighboring security services that you could say to the internal recruiter, please look for people that have these experiences as well. Oh, that's good. So you've identified 3. Jen Sherry, I have no idea if I'm saying that right. You've identified 3, more than 3, and all of the right side. Perfect. So it's working for you. Okay, Radis, I'm glad you saw it. Good. So it sounds like some people are feeling like this toolkit could be helpful, and I hope that it is. I hope that this really creates a breakthrough for you in your working relationship with human resources. Less than a minute to go. Did you look at page 4 of the toolkit? And have you identified neighboring services? Can you see yourself sitting down with an internal recruiter, showing them pages 3 and 4, and having that conversation? Think about that. How could you do that? Okay, Barking Seal says, what hasn't been mentioned is outflanking HR by articulating to leadership the impact of a good or a bad hire. Yeah, that's an escalation, right? If your working relationship with HR gets so bogged down and crummy that you just can't go anywhere anymore, then that you probably need to take that to your supervisor, whoever your supervisor is, right? You're going to need to escalate it because it's dysfunctional and broken, and it's keeping you from building the kind of strong team that I'm sure your boss wants you to build. So that would be a massive blocker, and you've got to deal with it. So that would be an escalation in my thinking. And I would not start a war. I don't think that your goal in a flanking maneuver is to destroy the enemy. I think your goal is to get their attention and help them realize that they need to, up their game, right? That they need to make some changes, that they need to mend the relationship that you're trying to work on. And yes, I keep saying the R word over and over and over, right? Relationship. Because when you're working on these issues that we're talking about here, it is about human beings and it is about relationships. And I think you will do well to really embrace that. At least that's what I found for myself, because in the beginning I didn't really approach it as a relationship. I approached it more as a transaction, right? I need somebody. I need to hire somebody. Will you please help me hire somebody? And let's go through the steps. And I really didn't put the human part of it in there as much as I should have. And when I started doing that, things got better and easier for me. Okay, so hopefully you found a service and a neighboring service pair or triad. Some of you found many, which I think is wonderful. So I hope that worked for you. So as we start wrapping up our workshop for today, our Anticast, what else is on your mind? We have a few minutes. I would be very glad to try to answer related questions to what we've talked about today, whether it's delegation or whether it's improving the working relationship that you have with human resources, or it could be something about the hiring handbook, or it could be something about interviews or screening, the actual hiring process, any of that. Trust that they may not be the enemy. Verify first. Good. Yeah, that's kind of the flip in philosophy, right? From perimeter-based network security to zero trust, right? We verify and then we trust you if you can successfully authenticate. Answer me these questions 3. I haven't watched that movie in a long time. Now I'm gonna have to watch it this weekend. Anybody know what movie I'm talking about? Yeah, Radis. Look at you guys. Nice. Haircut Fish has even got a convenient acronym. Yeah, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Good times, good times. Come on, what's on your mind other than old awesome movies? By the way, I'm looking down at my Discord chat here, which is why I'm forcing you to look at the side of my head. Haircut Fish, how old's your daughter? 11. Okay, so you showed her the rabbit scene. Is 11 not quite old enough to watch the whole movie? I'm wondering, because I've got young daughters too. Tis but a flesh wound. Life of Brian was really good. I did enjoy that. One of the things about Life of Brian that I enjoyed the most is how outraged the religious leaders were. But truth of fact, I didn't see a hint of disrespect in there for religion myself. I thought really that was a movie about how silly people can be. Your 11-year-old sings "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life." That's fantastic. Oh, look at Papa Golf. Biggest challenge for me is writing engaging, non-gendered job descriptions. Ooh, that's a good one. And I assume that you're talking about more than just pronoun problems, right? You're probably talking about, because I've seen a study about the use of certain words as being encouraging to men and discouraging to women, or vice versa. Is that what you're talking about? Okay, you're looking to improve gender diversity. Well, good. I think diversity on your team is a good idea, and I want to tell you what I think about that. Guess what? There's a whole section on this in the hiring handbook, so go read that too. But to me, diversity of thinking is really what I'm looking for, and one of the causes of diverse thinking is that people have grown up in different situations than I've grown up in, or they've had different jobs than I've had, or they live in a different culture than I live in. They speak a different language than I speak, right? So there's all kinds of great reasons to identify diversity, or the reasons why diversity shows up. I don't think diversity should be a simplistic matter of, well, we got a brown guy on our team, that's diverse, right? Oh, and then we got a woman, so that's diverse too, right? Those superficial, surface level diversities are really not what we want to go for. Neural diversity, absolutely. Now, the thing about diversity, though, is that it takes a tremendous amount of emotional maturity to work on a team with a lot of diversity. That's why hiring managers sometimes, and I think they fall into this trap unconsciously, but sometimes hiring managers reflexively just hire people who are just like they are, because it's easier to just be around people who automatically think and behave the way that you do. Hiring and building a diverse team requires a lot more emotional maturity, because people are going to say and do things that that your lizard brain, your amygdala, is going to react badly to as a knee-jerk reaction. And you've got to have enough front of mind executive function to be able to tell your amygdala to sit down and shut up, because that's not a threat. So, all right. Anything else on your mind that you want to talk about, as long as we're here? let me tell you a couple of free resources in addition to the hiring handbook, which I hope you'll go check out. So what have I given you today? You got the handbook, you got the delegation tool, you got the HR security toolkit. There's my book. My book's not free, but it is low cost. If you're having trouble creating a productive conversation with your senior decision makers who don't know much about cyber risk and cybersecurity, I would recommend part 1 of my book to you. I wrote part 1 of my book specifically for the senior decision makers who don't know anything about this subject. And it's easy to read. And if you read it and then do a book club with them, then that could be a way for you to spark a ongoing productive conversation with them. You reading my book will give you a vocabulary that you may not have right now. And it will certainly give them a vocabulary that they may not have. But the most important thing is you'll have the same vocabulary. And I've got stories and analogies. There's all kinds of things in part 1 of my book. And you can say to your senior decision maker, hey, there was this story on page 58, sounded a lot like us. What do you think? So that's a good use case for my book. You can get it softcover, Kindle. You can get it as an audio book, actually. I recorded that. It was kind of fun. Don't know if I want to do it all the time. But anyway, another potential resource for you just in your work. And then I am the co-host of a podcast. And my co-host is Jake Bernstein, who's a cybersecurity and privacy lawyer. And all this podcast is a lawyer and a CISO talking about what are the big issues of the day and doing it without too much jargon, doing it in a way that anybody could really participate in that conversation. So we're at our 5th year of the podcast. We just released episode 111, and it's got some good stuff in there. So yeah, I would love for you to check it out. Tell me what you think, and would love to have feedback. That's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. The formal portion of our Anticast has come to a conclusion, but we still have 10 minutes. I'm happy to stick around. I want to know what's on your mind, what questions you have, what comments you have about this topic, any topic. Happy to hear from you. I hear you, Ryan. I hear you squeaking your chair.
I'm back. I was moving the mic boom, making some squeakies. I know we've built up quite a playlist of movies that you're going to have to watch now. So we've got that.
Yeah, that too. Yep, you got to play. In fact, I should probably post the playlist. Yeah, thank you, folks in the Discord chat. You're very welcome. I'm so glad you were here to to be with me for a couple hours. That's no small commitment in the world we live in. That's a big deal. So thank you, and I'm glad you got something out of it. Stan, I love it. The banana thing, I haven't seen that yet. Oh, what a great reference. So long and thanks for all the fish. 42, back to you, and don't be a stranger. Oh, you're welcome, Ninja Pixie. Dog nose. Oh, Radis. Okay. Other countries. Yeah. Let's see. Either completely unqualified, failed to show up with the country VP interview after I interview them, although he's a bit of a roadblock. So I'm not an expert at hiring people in other countries. However, this idea of having unqualified people or people failing to show up for their interview, that happens in my country, right? I don't know what country you're in, but that happens here in the US all the time. So what I would encourage you to do is think about how can you have some pre-screening activities to help identify people who are not qualified and people who flake out and don't show up at the interviews, right? So what you want to do is you want to test for those things early on in the screening process, and weed them out that way, right? So what could you do? Well, for people who are completely unqualified, you could give them a short, practical test of some kind to do. I wouldn't make it a big one, and I know they can, that they can cheat. But you'll be surprised at how many people just won't even bother doing it. They'll be so put off that you even ask them to spend 15 minutes. And I wouldn't make it a multi-hour thing, but just anything at all to just sort of screen. You're trying to screen people out. And then as far as not showing up for the interview, what I would do there is I would test their ability to show up for a phone call or a Zoom call on a certain date at a certain time, and just see if they'll even do that. No guarantees here, right? You can still have people flake out, but this is how I think you should be thinking about the issue. Okay, Radis, you're okay. India, yeah, I definitely have no idea how to hire in India, but hopefully those thoughts you'll find them to be helpful. Oh, thanks, Ryan, for dropping the link to the class. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it seems like a good time to remind and relink everybody. I dropped in the Discord the link to the class, and I'm about to drop the link to the replay on our YouTube channel. There it is in the chat now. So you can re-review. Thank you.
So Radis says, they do the first interview with me, but flake on the second in-person interview. Huh. How interesting. I don't have a very specific suggestion for you. Does anybody who's still hanging out with us have a suggestion for Radis? If you do, please help them out. There are ways that you can hire people in other countries and have the official employer be somebody in country who understands what the laws and the regulations are and can take care of that for you. I don't know much about that. I just know that sort of thing does exist. Andrea, what are you doing to me? Not found, not found, not found, not found. What was that? Now it's gone. Whoops. Whoops, indeed. I don't know what
Comment
that was.
Not found.
Somebody must have deleted it. I don't know. Maybe Andrea was replying.
Maybe she pasted the wrong thing.
Maybe you failed their interview. Yeah, right. But even still, why would they agree to go to the second interview? Why wouldn't they just turn it down, right? Why wouldn't they just have the professional courtesy to say, no, thanks? It's kind of frustrating, right? I don't know. They get infinite vacation in Europe. Yeah, sort of. Sort of they do. They get a lot of it, that's for sure. Like right now, it's August, and I am trying to get a deal struck with a European company, pretty big one. And so we were talking today. It was early my time. It was late in the day for them. And I said, well, when can we talk again about this, right? And bear in mind that as we record this, it's August 11th. And I'm only trying to talk to 3 other people, right, in Europe in the same company. And we start comparing calendars, and the next available date is September 8th. Because they are on mega holiday. As the next time I could get all 3 of them together. And even at that, they're like, I don't know, I'll have to reschedule some stuff. Please, would you? Yeah. Okay, Radis. My company has unlimited PTO. I was wondering when somebody was going to talk about that. But isn't unlimited PTO, I mean, I've never been in a system like that, but don't people say that that's kind of like a difficult situation to be in because you've got no guidelines at all. And so people don't tend to take very much vacation because they're concerned about, getting judged for being gone too long. I don't know. Yeah, syntax bearer. Good for you. That's exactly what I was saying. Huh. All right, we only have 3 minutes left. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Ryan, is there any wrap-up banter that we need to do for folks?
Sure. To thank everybody for joining us for this workshop / webcast with Kip Boyle. We've shared the links out for his class if you want to continue on this path. And you will be in Deadwood, right? Is that correct?
I will physically be
physically in Deadwood. So
yep.
Hopefully we'll see some of you guys
copies. I will bring copies of my book for free. So if you come to Deadwood and you find me, I will hand you a free soft cover, right? Like a paper version of my book.
And he might even sign it if you ask him nicely.
I don't know why anybody would want me to do that, but I would do that.
Why not?
I just don't
opportunity.
Think. Yeah, it just I've signed a lot of books for people, but I still don't feel like I don't know what it is. I just don't feel like that. I don't know. I guess imposter syndrome. I don't know. I don't know what to chalk it up to.
That's what it is. Yeah, I think that's it.
Could be.
But
Could be.
You have a book. It's an accomplishment. You might as well sign the book.
Oh, I will sign the book. Don't worry about that. If you want me to sign the book, I'll sign the book. I'm just admitting right now that I feel weird inside when I do it. That's all.
All right. That's fine. What else am I forgetting? The recording again will be on YouTube after this is over.
I'll put the slides in the slides channel.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Slides. Very important that we have that. That will be in the slides resources channel in our Discord. And I will pop the link to that in the, let me grab it first. Multitasking is hard. I'm going to put that in our stream chat one more time just for the heck of it. Make sure people see that as we exit out of here. So it is right about 1 minute away from 3 p.m. my time here in Orlando, and we're about to say goodbye. So thanks again for coming. Any other questions, drop them in the Discord chat. Kip will see them and guide you along.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You can connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can shoot me an email. I will read every email you send me. I'll do my very best to respond to everyone I can.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
How about that for customer service? All right.
You get what you pay for.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye all.